you all for heading to your seats. While you're doing that, we are going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Curator Lehman.
Good morning. The committee has one information item and 4 action items. We'll begin with the information item. First item is the Intercollegiate Athletics Report for S&T. These annual reports are required pursuant to CRR 270.060, Intercollegiate Athletics, and provide the board with a high-level overview of the system's athletic programs. Reports for all 4 universities were submitted for review in November, and we heard from MU at our last meeting. Today, S&T Athletic Director Melissa Ringhausen will walk us through S&T's report and answer any questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share S&T Athletics with you. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to speak about our student athletes and the awards and the accolades and the successes that they have during their time here. So just, there we go. Oh, these are not. Hold a minute. Not in the right order. There we go. Start here. So just to refresh everybody, Missouri S&T, 17 varsity sports. During the 21-22 year, we added men's volleyball, a coaching staff to start the recruiting process. And then this past year, 22-23, was the first season that they had a competitive schedule. So 17 varsity sports. We compete in the NCAA Division II, and in 21-22, we had 434 student athletes. A list of all the various sports are up there. They're not in the right order. I apologize. They're not in the right order. There we go. Graduation rates. Always love to talk about the success of our student athletes. And I did, for the presentation, I just wanted to look at the last 5-year trend so that we can see the graduation rates, the consistency from year to year, but also in some cases the growth as well. So looking at the general student here at S&T in the first column, and then our student athletes in the second column, 74% back in 2018, and being very consistent and stable in that regards. In Division II, they have what's called academic success rate. We look at graduation rate, but because of the way we award athletic scholarships, the NCAA created academic success rate, which is a better measure for the success of our student athletes, because we have so many student athletes that come on and play for our teams that don't actually receive an athletic scholarship. So graduation rates is your freshman cohort that have an athletic scholarship, and then academic success rate is your freshman cohort that are on the team, but they don't necessarily have to have an athletic scholarship. So it's your entire freshman class that is coming through your athletic programs. So again, 81%, very high, a great representation of what our student athletes are doing, and that they are graduating within a 4 to 5 year period of time. Our academic portrait of our student athletes, again, looking at that 5-year trend, women's sports being in the first column, starting out 3.369, and we have continued to progress and improve. Our GPA for our women's sports was 3.55 among all of our female student athletes. And then moving over, our men, same thing, trending upward and continuing to improve each year, doing very well in the classroom, going from 3.115 to 3.371 over the past 5 years. So continuing to grow, improve. And then our all sports, just combining it all together, are 3.461. And you can see the progression over the last several years of how that has grown and continuing to improve. So we're very excited about that. Academic awards, this was put into the packet as well. Looking at the previous year, 2020-21, you can see the progression of our student athletes are continuing to excel, being eligible and receiving more accolades than what they have done the previous year, pretty much in every single category. So again, just continuing that trend, always trying to do things that are going to improve those opportunities for our student athletes to do well and to receive the accolades that they are working for. Athletic honors, I did not put on here, I just wanted to share kind of in 21-22 some of the highlighted successes of our student athletes from an athletic standpoint. 50 all-conference student athletes, player of the weeks, individual championships, so that would be your swimming, your track and fields. We had 7 GLVC individual championships in various events. We had 2 coaches of the year, our outdoor track and field coach, as well as our swimming coach that year in the GLVC, freshman of the year, and then we did receive the prestigious honor of the male student athlete of the year in the GLVC among all institutions. So that was a great honor. Nathan Swadley, he was a throwers for us in track and field, outstanding student athlete. And then our track and field, we won the outdoor GLVC team championship as well, a program that has been consistently competing and succeeding at that level. NCAA honors, individual NCAA championships, again, that's track and field predominantly, making appearances in individual events. We had 16 of those, and then NCAA All-American honors, we had 15 of those in 21-22. We take a lot of pride in the events that we host for our alumni and for various groups in bringing them back to our campus. It has been a real focus of athletics, making sure that we are continuing to engage those individuals or get them engaged. So these are just a number of the events that we do, and they are really popular, and the pictures kind of speak more than what I can share with you. It wasn't going and finding the ones that had a lot of people that attend. Like, these are the events that we held, and we had great attendance at them. And they had a great time. And obviously our goal is many of these individuals want to give back to S&T, whether it's their time, their resources, financially, whatever the case may be. But it's showing them and bringing them back to see what we are doing and what a great place this is. And you know, hoping that they will give back to something that they're very passionate about. The professional life skills down in the bottom corner, I'd like to speak about that one. That one's actually for our student athletes. And we bring alumni back that do a professional development day with them where they take on various topics of, you know, what do you wear on your first day to the job? Who should you connect with? Do you bring your lunch? Do you not? Do you take the benefit plans? Do you even know what the benefit plans are? Do you understand them? What do you have to do to start your own business? Or when, you know, in negotiating contracts or you get multiple job offers, how do you negotiate? How do you look at which one's the best? So they spend this time with our student athletes. And the corner down there is just kind of a very snippet of the day of them doing that with them. And we do it with about 40 student athletes. It's well attended. They love it. At the end of the event, I can't get the student athletes to go because they want to hang out with those AMA members, those alumni that come back because they've developed those relationships during that time. So it's always a really good event. And then another thing that we take great culture or great pride in is, you know, retention's always a topic for every institution, and strongly believe that athletics is the one thing that, not necessarily the only thing, but one way to get your students to connect on campus, to develop friendships, relationships. You know, you don't have to be an athlete to love athletics. And so we work really hard to make our game day environment fun, engaging, energetic. We do it with the community as well. But with our student athletes, we want our students to connect, to bond, to get pride in being here, you know, in hopes that they love it and they want to stay and that they're proud of it. And so these are pictures that we took of just different things that we're doing. The middle one was super cool because it's so symbolic of S&T athletics. We had our one of our design teams come and their robot flipped the coin at center field at one of our football games. Super cool. But again, it's just getting those different organizations engaged and involved, and in hopes that, you know, they'll love it and that they want to stay. So we're very proud of that. And that is my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, Melissa. Are there any questions from the committee or the board?
I have a question. On your revenues, on the breakdown, the financials, and you've got direct institutional support, okay? How is that determined by athlete or by sport? How do you determine which one of these breakdowns, the football, men's basketball, women's basketball, how are they receiving that direct institutional support? How do you determine that?
So our goal is for all of our programs to have similar opportunities for success. And so we look at each program and try to break it down equivocal in that sense, but we also have to manage Title IX responsibilities and making sure that our athletic opportunities are mirroring what our athletic opportunities are. And so those are kind of the factors that go into that.
And that's besides these are revenues that come in directly from the university to the individual sports, right?
Correct.
So, and that's besides the scholarships that's shown below as expenses, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to say it was a pleasure to get to know you yesterday, and I am going to take you up. It's publicly now that you're going to invite me to a tailgate next year.
Absolutely,
And so-
and we have hosted a couple other curators that are here, and hope they enjoyed their experience. So all of you are invited. Just let me know, and we will take good care of you.
All right.
Thank
you
you.
again, Melissa. Our first action item is a proposal to extend the test optional undergraduate admissions pilot by 1 year to encompass the fall 2024 admissions cycle at the University of Missouri-Columbia, Missouri University of Science and Technology, and University of Missouri St. Louis. Dr. John Middleton, Chief of Staff and Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs, will discuss the proposal. He's accompanied by enrollment managers Kim Murphy, David Spivey, and Reggie Hill, who are available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. As Curator Lehman said, MU, S&T, and UMSL are requesting today a 1-year extension to the test optional pilot that was extended by the board last year through the fall 23 cycle. We're now requesting that that be extended through the fall 24 cycle. As you may recall, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, universities went test optional because of availability of testing sites, and that has persisted at many universities across the nation. UMKC has been test optional permanently since early 2020, which is why we're only asking for the other 3 institutions today. The 1-year extension has the support of each chancellor and provost and has been endorsed by the faculty senates and councils at each of the 3 institutions. The primary reasons for doing this is to provide clarity to our prospective students that are anticipating enrolling in fall of 2024, to allow an additional assessment of data on how test optional students perform at each of these institutions. It should be noted that 7 out of 10 students still choose to submit a test score as part of their application, while about 3 out of 10 students go through a holistic review as test optional. And this will also then allow our institutions to continue monitoring the competitive landscape. As we've discussed at other curators meetings, as well as was alluded to today, we are in a very competitive market as an institute of higher education, and this is something we need to consider as we move forward with our enrollment processes. Many of our peer institutions, including members of the AAU, the Big 10, Big 12, and the SEC, are currently test optional, and all public universities in the state of Missouri are remaining test optional for the coming academic year. So with that, if you have any questions, I do have the enrollment managers from each of those 3 institutions here to answer questions.
Thank you, John. Any questions?
I have one. One of the things we talked about last fall, I believe it was at the November meeting, was that while in this test optional, it's very time intensive for the enrollment management team. And are we hiring to get through test optional, or are they just kind of making it through for another year while they continue to evaluate whether that's going to become a standard policy? I know they were having to it was really almost a hand review of each application without a test.
So Reggie, David, or Kim, would you like to answer that question?
Hi, good morning. Curator Winokur, we are getting by. We don't anticipate needing to hire. We're doing a really good job of analyzing our data and knowing who we want to admit, who we need to look at closely. So we've got a series, we've got a process, we've got a flow, we've got lots of people looking at the applications, but we're getting by.
Have the others come and speak. And that would be the same for S&T. So we have staff that are certainly put in the time and energy into getting those test optional applications reviewed, it does take a little bit more time because there are multiple considerations for the application that don't exist in a regular application, but we are also making it happen.
And for so we're finding more efficient ways to process the higher volume application, which is giving us more time and for careful review of the test optional applications. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to recommend approval of a one-year extension to the test optional undergraduate admissions policy at the University of Missouri-Columbia, Missouri S&T, and the University of Missouri-St. Louis? I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor by saying aye? Aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Academic Student Affairs, Research, and Economic Development Committee, I move to recommend to the full board that the one-year extension of the test optional undergraduate admissions policy at the University of Missouri-Columbia, Missouri S&T, and University of Missouri-St. Louis be approved.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. A motion has been made to approve the extension of the test optional undergraduate admissions pilot as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, can I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes. Curator Lehman.
Thank you. Our second action item is a proposal to amend CRR 300.020, faculty bylaws at the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Dr. Jennifer Lundgren, UMKC Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor, is here to discuss the revisions and answer any questions.
All right, thank you. The UMKC Faculty Senate requests revisions to the CRR 320.020 faculty bylaws of the University of Missouri, Kansas City. Specifically, their proposed revisions address these 4 points. One, redefine the term faculty to include anyone with an academic title with some exceptions, for example, graduate instructors. Redefine the term voting faculty to clarify voting rights on Senate matters. Establish the right of non-voting faculty to attend the annual all-faculty meeting, and expand eligibility for faculty to run for faculty senate offices. These revisions were approved by the UMKC Faculty Senate and by the full faculty following procedures found in Section F of the faculty bylaws. The revisions were reviewed by the Office of General Counsel and endorsed by Chancellor Agrawal. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions from the committee or the board?
No.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to recommend approval of the amendments to CRR 300.020, faculty bylaws of the University of Missouri, Kansas City? I will make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Academic Student Affairs, Research, and Economic Development Committee, I move to recommend to the full board that the amendments to CRR 300.020, faculty bylaws of the University of Missouri, Kansas City, be approved.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. A motion is made to approve the amendment of CRR 300.020 as presented. Is there any discussion? Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Julia. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion passes. Curator Lehman.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is a proposal to amend CRR 030, faculty bylaws for the University of Missouri S&T. Dr. Colin Potts, S&T Provost and Executive Vice Chancellor, will discuss the revisions and answer any questions.
Good morning. The Faculty Senate of S&T requests approval to make a number of changes, a smattering of what I would characterize as minor changes, and for your convenience, I'll divide them into two main categories. The first are minor substantive changes. There is a provision to create a process to reorganize academic departments and colleges, emphasizing administrative and faculty collaboration. There's a measure to permit the Faculty Senate to make decisions using electronic ballots when appropriate. And there are two new committees, a faculty committee on environmental health and safety, and a subcommittee to oversee and plan commencement. And then there are a number of minor changes to ensure consistency. The first are to reflect the fact that S&T has a collegiate organization and has had for several years, and the content of the bylaws now reflect that collegiate organization as opposed to a purely departmental one. And secondly, there are numerous changes that have been triggered by changes to the CRRs in the intervening time since the bylaws were last updated. And so I would say that these all really fall into the map reflecting the territory. And so, the faculty voted as a package these items in favor, 49-4, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee or the board? Okay. If there's no further discussion, may I have a motion and a second from the committee to recommend approval of the amendments to CRR 300.030, Faculty Bylaws of the University of Missouri S&T? I'll make that motion.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Academic Student Affairs, Research, and Economic Development Committee, I move to recommend to the full board that amendments to CRR 300.030, Faculty Bylaws of the University of Missouri Science and Technology, be approved.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. A motion has been made to approve the amendment of CRR 300.030 as presented. Is there any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries. Curator Lehman.
Okay, thank you. Our last agenda item is a proposal to revise the MU School of Medicine Student Honor Code pursuant to Collected Rule and Regulation 200.020. Dr. Laney Young Walker, MU School of Medicine Associate Dean for the Student Programs and Chair of the Department of Psychiatry, is here to discuss the proposal and answer any questions.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. Today, I would like to share with you proposed modifications to the MU School of Medicine Student Honor Code. This honor code exists to investigate facts, hold hearings, and impose sanctions related to student conduct. The collected rules and regulations allows for the creation of student honor codes subject to the chancellor and board approval, so long as they meet minimum standards outlined in the collected rules 200.010, Standard of Conduct. The purpose of these revisions, which are explained in an executive summary, are also outlined in a red line copy of the honor code in your materials. The purpose is as follows: to define clear standards of conduct to which medical students will be held and accountable, to clarify the process for evaluating alleged violations of the standards, to expand and clarify the rights of the respondent in the hearings, and to delineate the sanctions that may be imposed for violations of the standards of conduct. These proposed changes are the result of a lengthy review and vetting process that included faculty, staff, and students in the School of Medicine. The revisions have also been reviewed and approved by Dr. Rick Barron, MU EVC for Health Affairs and Dean of the School of Medicine, the Office of General Counsel, and the Office of the Chancellor. I would be happy to take any questions that you have regarding the proposed changes.
I do have some questions. In the red line, it says the respondent will be able to question witnesses after the university basically questions them. Does that mean the respondent or a representative or counsel? Does that mean the respondent, him or herself?
The respondent is able to have counsel with them, and so it could go with respondent or counsel, and we have counsel from the university system present as well.
Okay, so the counsel can ask the questions. The respondent doesn't have to do it themselves.
Yes, the counsel can be present and can ask.
Okay, because I wasn't sure about that when I read the document.
Yes.
Okay, and on the non-discrimination clause, does that go beyond what's required by law, or is that basically what's required by law?
What's required by law.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? If there's no further discussion, may I have a motion, a second from the committee to recommend approval of revisions to the MU School of Medicine Student Honor Code pursuant to CRR 200.020? I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay. Are there any abstentions? The motion carries. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Academic Student Affairs, Research, and Economic Development Committee, I move to recommend to the full board that the revisions to the MU School of Medicine Student Honor Code pursuant to CRR 200.020 be approved.
Thank you, Curator Lehman. A motion's been made to approve the MU School of Medicine Student Honor Code revisions as presented. Is there any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Mr. Mangini, you've been dealing with this a little bit. What are the protections for students in these honor code, across the university, these honor code hearings?
Asking from a legal perspective?
No, I'm asking from a, what's the state, I know you've been working on this. I want to make sure that all across the university that people have an opportunity to be heard when these serious allegations are made. And I just don't know what the state of play of that is.
Well, the state of play is, we currently allow for due process under the standard of law, what's legally required across the board. The state of play of the current CRRs for student conduct and student conduct proceedings is that we have just socialized with student groups across the entire system, as well as with the faculty groups across the entire system, proposed changes to those CRRs as of yesterday. This has been a year-long process that started before I took the office of General Counsel last April. We have gone through a very thorough review of the current CRRs for student conduct and student disciplinary process. We've had an eye on not just due process, but from my perspective, what's reasonable. You know, just because there's a bare minimum due process standard articulated by the law doesn't mean we have to follow that. We can take a different perspective on that, taking into account the legal side of a reasonableness standard, as well as the constituents that deal with this, not just in the university itself, but the outside constituents. There are groups that represent fraternities. There are groups that represent sororities. They have made their voice heard on what they would like to see in terms of changes to those conduct proceedings. We've taken all of that into account, and at the next board meeting, I hope that we will be in a position to put before the board sweeping changes to those CRs. So that's where we're at today. We are on track to put that in front of the board next June.
And I know you've worked very hard on that, and I appreciate that. That's a lot of constituencies. I guess my specific question, and I wanted to understand the background, because I knew that was coming, does this code of conduct comply fully with the new standards?
We haven't done a side-by-side of this code of conduct against the CRR changes for undergraduate across the system, so I can't tell you where all the I'll call it, where the gaps may be between the School of Medicine's code of conduct and what those changes are going to be. I can do that for you, certainly, and we can talk about that at the next board meeting or before then, if you'd like.
Well, because we're constrained by having two members, and I didn't want to not forward that to the full board. I will tell you that I will not be in favor of this until that is made, that comparison's made, because I don't see why we'd want to pass a code of conduct at this session, enshrine it in our rules, our collective rules, and then do a comprehensive thing across, the university. And I also don't know why we would have a situation where there'd be more protections for undergraduates than for graduate students. So I'd like to see that fairly uniform, and I'm not going to vote against this today. Not that I wouldn't be for it in the future, but I'd like to see it compared.
Okay. We'll undertake that effort.
Curator Lehman, I'm sorry, Curator Graves, are you making a motion to table this until we get the comprehensive?
Yeah, so moved.
Is there a second? We're past the committee phase.
Yeah.
I'll second
So,
that.
second.
So I think we have a motion to table this until we see the comprehensive changes that are being made to the CRRs so that we are consistent for not only undergrad, but graduate school. Did I state that correctly?
Correct.
And Curator Graves, I don't want to speak for anybody in the School of Medicine. There may be very good reasons why we would want different standards between the Graduate School of Medicine and the undergraduates. I can't speak to that today. So as we do this
Yeah.
comparison, I'll also seek out those comments from the graduate school and provide that at that time.
Okay.
I think that's the right, I mean, we're building the framework, and then we figure out how to apply it where we need to, if there's nuances.
And so we have a motion and a second to table this discussion until we can see the comprehensive view that's coming up in
It'll be in June.
June, so in about 60 days. Which, would that still give you guys time to implement that for next school year if we table this for 60 days?
Yes, we would be able to implement for the next school year. We start with orientation in July for our M1s.
Okay, so hear the motion, understanding the explanations from both legal counsel and the School of Medicine. All those in favor of tabling this discussion until the June meeting, say aye.
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 All right.
Any opposed? Are there any abstentions? Cindy, I want to make sure this is correct in the meetings, in the minutes, that we have voted unanimously to table this discussion until we see the comprehensive review, so we can bring this back up at the next meeting. I don't know whether we'll need another presentation, but let's just be mindful of that when we're setting the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I forgot to say thank you, but I meant to. Our next item of business is from the Audit, Compliance, and Ethics Committee. Curator Holloway, can you make that presentation?
I sure can. Thank you very much. We have one informational item today, and that is the quarterly report for the University of Missouri Chief Audit Compliance Officer, Michelle Pirano, will present the report to us. She'll highlight the audit work that's been completed since the February 2023 Board of Curators meeting and review the status management action plans. A full report is available, as you all know, in your documents for the meeting. And without further comment, Michelle, please.
Thank you, Curator Holloway. So I'm going to touch briefly today on 4 areas. The status of the rolling audit plan that was approved at the June 2022 Board of Curators meeting, audit work and investigations performed since then, and the results of our recent work to substantiate implementation of the management action plans from previously completed audits. So currently on our rolling audit plan, we have 28 audits and consulting engagements. 5 have been completed and 9 are in process, although since publication of this report, we've had another audit completed, and we are working on finalizing action plans for 3 more of those 8 audits that are in process. We've completed the final 2023 verification of management action plans for previously completed audits, and 7 investigations were completed, and we're actively working 4. So we conduct the follow-up procedures twice a year to verify that the status of the management action plans for audits that had been issued previously are completed. And for this time period, we had 24 action items that were due across 8 audits, and 23 of these action plans are complete. 1 was given an extended due date, and this was part of the UMKC lab safety audit, and it was necessary to allow time for the stakeholders to collaborate on developing standard external hazard signage and emergency contact procedures. All management action plans for 6 audits have been completed, so these audits are now considered closed. And I do want to thank all that were involved in these 6 audits for their cooperation and their expertise in addressing the issues that were identified. The compliance report will be focused on our youth protection program, and this supports the policy requirements that have been established for a safe environment for our youth participating in any programs on our campuses, in person or virtually. And here are the statistics for calendar year 2022. We had 9,920 youth participate and about close to 1,300 adults working those programs or volunteers, and 191 youth programs were registered.
How do we define youth in that? Is that high school students that are coming on campuses, or are we citing that youth as our students?
No, not our students. It could be up to through high school.
Okay.
It could also be, we have a lot of younger children coming for camps too. So we've been working all this year to be able to track metrics on the program. And these are our metrics that we've been tracking. And this indicates that 75% of programs were registered to 16 to 30 or more days in advance, and the remaining programs were registered 0 to 15 days in advance or after the start date of the program. This is an important metric to track and work with programs because timely registration allows you to fulfill the other requirements such as background checks of volunteers and completion of annual education. So you can see the different metrics for completion of the background checks, training, and meeting the requirements for the supervisor to youth ratio that is established. We are continuously working to improve these metrics, and as we move into our second full year of being able to track this, we've already seen an increase in registration and completing of requirements earlier for programs than what we had seen in the previous year. And some of the changes that we've made to assist the different camps and programs are we've now been able to provide group education that program managers can use to meet volunteer education requirements. And we've increased communications to the program managers about missing items for the supervising adults to meet the criteria. We've also established a go-to, some of the camps and programs to go to while they're being conducted. So we go on site and we can kind of check the different ratios and how the camps are being done. On the back end, we can now distribute to each program their metrics, and we are also providing these metrics, or we will be providing these metrics for departments, schools, and campuses so they can monitor their performance. And guidelines for working through issues of noncompliance with appropriate sanctions have been vetted with the Office of General Counsel, Risk Management, Human Resources, and Title IX, all partners with us in keeping the youth safe on our campus. And just quickly, this slide illustrates how we're managing the youth protection program, the specifics of it, according to the 7 elements of an effective compliance program. And the important point here is that if we can illustrate this for all the other compliance areas that we work with, or the areas that have compliance obligations, this is how we can demonstrate we have an effective compliance program should anything happen or we have to work with the government on any issues. So this concludes the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Michelle, thank you for your presentation as always. Quick question. 4 or 5 years ago, we discussed potentially using AI to help identify risk, and it seems like we couldn't really find the right option. Have you revisited that? Because it sure seems like there's some tools out there now that could be helpful.
using artificial intelligence
Yeah.
to, we've started looking at that with some of the new tools that are available, but we also want to be very careful that it's not bringing back false positives. So we always want to verify with leaders and have those discussions as well about risk in different areas.
Thank you.
If those no further questions, thank you for your time. And, Mr. Chairman? That concludes our business for the Compliance Committee.
Thank you, Curator Holloway. I will now turn it over to Curator Winokur for the Health Affairs Committee report.
Good morning. The Health Affairs Committee met on April 13th. We had 3 information items and 1 action item. Dr. Rick Barron will present a summary of the presentations for us this morning, and from these reports, you will see the continued accomplishments and opportunities for MU Healthcare at the School of Medicine and NextGen. Dr. Barron.
Thank you, Curator Winokur, and good morning, Chair Williams and curators. So here's our agenda. I'm going to give you an update on MU Healthcare and the School of Medicine, followed by a financial update for MU Healthcare. So first of all, I want to start by sharing with you last week that MU Healthcare lifted the universal masking requirements for all MU Healthcare hospitals and clinics. So this was a decision that was based on MU Healthcare's accreditation agency, which issued an advisory allowing its accredited institutions to use their own internal metrics to assess COVID-19 risk. Based on risk assessment conducted by the MU Healthcare's infection control team, a decision was made to lift the universal masking policy and return to pre-COVID standard infection control practices. We can make these data-driven decisions to return to pre-COVID operations. When we can make these decisions, it's really a very, very good sign for the city, the county, and the state. So I'm very proud of the team for moving so quickly. So I want to start off by underscoring how very excited we are that Rick Ransom will be joining MU Healthcare as our new CEO. He currently serves as president of a large academic hospital at the University of Wisconsin, along with other important roles in that system. And it was quite clear during his vetting process and interview that Rick has the right experience, coupled with impeccable executive skills and the ability to communicate well. So he will be an incredible asset to our healthcare system in his leadership role, and I look forward to working closely with him when he arrives in just a few weeks. And I'd like to take this time to thank Vice Chancellor of Health Affairs, Nim Chinaya, who's in the audience, for serving as the interim CEO for our health system. He's done an excellent job and is already working on making the transition to Rick seamless. So, Nim, thank you. Another key leadership position is the MU Healthcare Chief Quality Officer. So Dr. Emily Fondren will be taking on this role next week, May 1st. She joins us from WashU and Barnes-Jewish in St. Louis, where she has served as Associate Medical Officer for quality of that large healthcare system. The Chief Quality Officer is a very important role in the healthcare system. The leader works to ensure optimal patient care by both improving outcomes and reducing the risk of medical care delivery. Dr. Fondren, in addition, is an internist. And while she'll be spending most of her time doing administrative duties, she will have some direct patient care involvement, and by participating in care delivery, she will maintain a frontline perspective on issues that impact quality and safety for patients. So since the board met last time, we've been able to open 2 new MU Healthcare facilities that serve rural Missouri, and I wanted to highlight those. So in February, we opened a new physical therapy clinic in Mexico, and you can see the ribbon-cutting photo at the top. So we have MU Healthcare physical therapy operations in Ashland, in Fulton, and now Mexico, all done in partnership with the local YMCA. and we rent space for our physical therapy clinics in these settings. So by offering our services in these well-trusted YMCA settings that are easy to access, community locations, we really better serve the needs of the local community. So that was one rural operation that recently opened. The second is just last week, we celebrated the grand opening of our Jackson Road Medical Building in Boonville. The new Boonville Clinic also includes a physical therapy clinic, but not in a YMCA, it's in the Boonville Clinic. Many community leaders showed up for this grand opening. It was very exciting. Mayor Ned Beach was there, and we were also very pleased to have Congressman Blaine Luetkemeyer attend. And on the bottom, we see a picture of the ribbon cutting led by Dr. Mona Bromfield, who is the primary care physician who leads the clinic. It was a really exciting event. And these are examples that show how MU Healthcare figures out that there's a need in the community. We find ways to step up and help the community so that healthcare can be delivered throughout rural Missouri. And it really shows the type of partnerships that can happen between MU Healthcare, the School of Medicine, and local community partners when we work together and we can really create very meaningful, impactful solutions to serious healthcare issues. So I want to switch to providing a School of Medicine update, and I want to frame my update around our 3 pillars of the joint School of Medicine MU Healthcare mission, which involves research, education, and patient care. So in order to save and improve lives, which is our joint mission for MU Healthcare and the School of Medicine, we need an exemplary research program. And to that end, I am very pleased to announce that we have recruited Dr. Bettina Mittendorfer as our new Senior Associate Dean for Research. Dr. Mittendorfer comes from WashU. She will be a professor in the Department of Internal Medicine and the Division of Endocrinology. Her research expertise is in the intersection of nutrition, obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, and she uses both laboratory models and direct human clinical trials to answer her important research questions. Beyond her personal research that she will be doing, she will be the Chief Research Administrator for the School of Medicine, and in this role she will oversee over $90 million research expenditure portfolio. So I've asked her to focus on centralizing expertise in our research mission, and in particular, I want her to lead the effort to grow clinical trials and to more efficiently allow us to engage with industry partners from around the country to do cutting-edge research in the School of Medicine. And I also want her to engage a wider group of our practicing clinicians in our healthcare system to get involved in clinical research and introduce ways they can do this without disturbing their clinical services or productivity. So another pillar of our mission is education. And our medical school is up for reaccreditation by the Liaison Committee on Medical Education, which is the accrediting body for U.S. medical schools. The LCME will be on site for a visit in April 2024 to review our program in depth. And leading up to the site visit, we have a very large team in the medical education office, as well as faculty, staff, and students from throughout the organization preparing us for this site visit by the LCME. So beyond reviewing our program to ensure that we offer medical students high-quality instruction experiences, we are also beginning discussions on ways to optimize our class size. We're looking at ways we can increase residency opportunities for graduating physicians to keep them in Missouri. And we're also exploring ways to collaborate with other University of Missouri universities to train the next generation of healthcare professionals and scientists. And I want to highlight one example of this, which is happening on April 28th here in Rolla. Dr. Dave Arnold, the Executive Director for the Next Gen Precision Health Initiative, and Missouri S&T Chancellor Kamal Kayat, who's here in the room, I believe, are holding a collaborative Next Gen Symposium here in Rolla on April 28th. And that symposium will discuss translational medical science initiatives that both campuses are involved in cancer and neuroscience and in other areas. and they're working very closely on ways to enhance team science collaboration between the two universities. The third important pillar to meet our mission is to increase our clinical capacity and improve our clinical performance. So to that end, we are in the midst of a national search for a vice dean who will assist me in these and other efforts. We are laser focused on recruiting outstanding clinicians from Missouri and across the country, and in particular in cardiology and neuroscience and in women's and children's health. We also are recruiting many more primary care physicians. I mentioned our clinical expansion in Boonville, and I want to emphasize that for all of these new clinics to operate, we need to hire more physicians, nurses, and other staff to accomplish that mission. So in order to do this, on the physician side, we have a process to accomplish effective clinical physician recruitment. Dr. Rick Freundfelder, our Associate Dean for Faculty Affairs, and I lead a weekly committee meeting that includes leaders from both MU Healthcare and the School of Medicine. And at these meetings, department chairs have prepared dossiers and financial pro formas for each position that they want to fill, and the committee reviews the requests and acts as the final vetting process to pursue these hires. So we have wins every week through this process. I just want to mention one, which is fairly recent. Our new chair of the Department of Neurosurgery, Mike Chicoine, just recruited an outstanding complex spine surgeon from also from WashU, Paul Santiago, and he joined 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's already been operating in MU Healthcare. So it just amazingly upped our game in our ability to do spine surgery at MU Healthcare. So for research recruitment, we have created a School of Medicine Research Committee, and proposals from the chairs and other leaders are vetted, and a decision is made on whether to go down the Mizzou Forward pathway or the School of Medicine process. And this is largely a function of whether or not they're bringing a large federal grant with them, in which case they would usually go down the Mizzou Forward pathway. Junior candidates that are just coming out of training who don't have funding are more likely to go down the School of Medicine pathway. And since July 2022, we've brought in 21 new research hires and transferred $7 million of federal awards to the University of Missouri, and these new hires have submitted more than $25 million in grant proposals. Here's a snapshot on this slide that shows that we now have 713 faculty in the School of Medicine, and this includes both clinical and research-focused faculty, and this number continues to increase. In order to reach our aggressive recruitment goals, we've hired a new director of physician recruitment, Maria Lopez Mendez, and she's assembled a team of recruiters who are busy recruiting new faculty so that we can convince them to come to Mizzou. So I've talked about our rural outreach priorities in MU Healthcare, and I want to also highlight that we have a significant rural focus in our education program as well. Among all other land-grant universities in the country, our medical school and our health programs are uniquely linked to the Extension network. For example, by using Extension partnership, we can provide on-site training for local EMS and other clinicians using our simulation vans. We also offer extensive Extension education using our telehealth echo program to teach healthcare clinicians how to manage current and emerging healthcare problems such as autism, addiction, and diabetes. And with Washington University, we're leveraging Extension to establish a community network that will engage rural clinicians in research and allow rural patients opportunities to be part of cutting-edge clinical trials. And I want to thank Chad Higgins for being my partner in this. It's a great partnership, and it's unique in the country, I believe. To move on to medical students, a culminating event for all fourth-year medical students is Match Day. And as usual, Match Day was very exciting. Our students did extremely well, and they will now go on to train further as primary care physicians and as specialists in most fields across the United States, and many will stay here in Missouri and many at the University of Missouri in Columbia. So as we graduate our current class, we will have a School of Medicine commencement on May 13th, and we invite you all to join us. And we have a video of medical student opening their match day envelopes. Could you play that and hit the play button real quick?
So with just the experience I've had at MU, being able to say I get to stay here and train as an orthopedic surgeon for 5 more years is just incredible.
I have loved my time in Springfield. I feel like that's truly where I've grown.
Just a snippet, and Dr. Elaine Young-Walker was emceeing the ceremony, the day that it was a very exciting day. All right, and to end my presentation, there should be one more slide.
Yeah.
Can we go back one?
Yeah, Rick. Technical difficulty.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You mentioned Springfield, so we cut you off.
Yeah. I was going to, thank you. I was going to give a brief financial update on MU Healthcare, and the next slide will show our current numbers. And as you recall, in December, we were projecting about a $45 million fiscal year end. Since then, in January and February, MU Healthcare's margins were some of the 2 highest months, certainly of this year, and the total operating margin just in those 2 months alone was $14.7 million. So this puts us on track actually to exceed our $45 million target. And our biggest challenge, as we've said before, continues to be on the expense side with the high cost of agency, or so-called travelers, healthcare providers, primarily nurses, but not all. But despite this challenge, we remain in a positive operating territory, whereas Kaufman Hall reported that more than half of U.S. hospitals have a negative margin. We're in the other half, and we're working with Kaufman Hall to determine equivalent financial information from our peer institutions in the region and around the country. With that, that ends my remarks, and I'll be happy to take any questions. Thank you, Curator Winokur.
Any questions? I'll just make a quick comment that we love our Springfield students and all of the doctors and staff who help us train them.
Yes.
We'll put an asterisk on that. The only action of the Health Affairs Committee was to approve the minutes of February 2nd meeting, which was unanimously approved by the committee last Thursday. One other note I want to make sure that we make. As previously noted, we've added a report at each meeting at the Health Affairs Committee from each university in the University of Missouri system regarding academic medicine and the medical research being conducted on their campus. Last week, we heard from Missouri S&T's Provost Colin Potts. He gave us an insightful presentation on education, research, and partnerships with the focus on S&T's biomedical footprint. That led to a robust conversation about the continuing collaboration of our system universities. So thank you to Dr. Barron for helping us facilitate that, and certainly to Provost Potts as well. This concludes the business of the Health Affairs Committee.
Thank you, Curator Winokur.
Thank you, Dr. Barron.
At this time, I'm pleased to turn it over to Chancellor Degani so that he can present the campus highlights for Missouri S&T.
Thank you very much for the opportunity for us to highlight some of the activities at Missouri S&T. I am going to talk a little bit about our North Star goals. I'll give you an update on enrollment and retention data, financial update, highlights on the students, faculty, and some new initiatives that we have ongoing. But before doing that, I'd like to highlight honoring a pioneer of integration here at Missouri S&T. Mr. George Horn tried to attend University of Missouri, Rolla, and in 1950, and not by the university faculty or staff, but by the community. The conditions were not right on those dark, ominous days of segregation, and he didn't last long here, but we wanted to honor Mr. Horn, and we invited him to be a guest of honor at our graduation ceremonies this semester. But he couldn't come because of health issues, so I went to his house in North St. Louis and presented him with the Chancellor's Medal. And he was very, very grateful, this humble man, had no ill feelings toward the community, the university at all. And the real kick for him was when I took my S&T pen off and put it on his jacket. And he was really thrilled with that. And he had one request for us, and that was that he wanted a baseball cap that said S&T. And we have one ready for him, and I'll hand deliver that to Mr. Horn soon. So that was really an emotional highlight for us. And I'll tell you a little more about him. When I called him the very next day on his 91st birthday to tell him that our chapter of the NSBE chapter, National Society for Black Engineers, was picked as the best chapter in the country for what they do. And he was just speechless to hear that. So I told him, we've come a long way, sir, and you're invited to come to campus anytime you wish. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our North Star goals. You're familiar with that. We are pushing to be an R1 university, and there are a lot of activities going on that. Just to be clear, you all know that the type of research that we do here is of R1 caliber by all measures that Carnegie Institute of New York measures us. We just need to broaden our base in the research that we do, and I'll highlight a few activities that we have in that areas. We want to be counted a top 100 ranking university. We have some challenges in that regard, and that is because of the nature of the fact that we are an institute of technology and not a comprehensive university. I'll talk about that as well. And then our enrollment goal is to get to 8,000 undergraduate and 4,000 graduate students for a total of 12,000 enrollment. So this is a bit of good news as far as our enrollment goes. Just look at the green column on the right-hand side. That's our record number of applications by about 30%. So we, in fact, are higher than that number today. We are about 8,000 applications, of which we have admitted about 5,700 students, and our enrolled deposited numbers, including the melt that happens, we are at 1167 as of this morning. And if you compare that with the orange column on 2022, 1146 was our final number last year. So we are already in mid-April above the numbers that we had last year at the end of the recruiting season. So those numbers are good. We are hoping to get to above 1,200. And it looks like by all measure we still have many months to go, and we are 50 short of that goal that we have set for us, and hopefully we'll get there. How did we get there? We have done a lot. The enrollment at graduate and undergraduate level is virtually a daily talk on campus. The great news is that everybody is involved, department chairs, deans, even our students. We have formed the Army of Champions, which are our successful seniors and juniors who go back to their own high schools and talk about Missouri S&T experience and so on. So there is a whole host of activities. We refer to them as yield campaigns for undergraduate and graduate. And we have many, many champions, some of whom are in this room, that are helping us achieve our enrollment goals. So the retention is also a big issue for us. We've had historically a significant really attrition between freshman and sophomore years. This is a rigorous place, and many of our students come here and don't make it to the second year, some for very, very good reasons. They decide they want to be a lawyer instead of an engineer, or a physician instead of an engineer. So many leave for those reasons, but we can help many others. and we've had significant effort in those areas as well. This chart shows that historically we retain about 81% between freshman year and sophomore year. In the last 2 years, this past year, we were at 86.2%, and that is not even an updated number. In fact, today we are at 87.3% retention. Our goal is to get to 92%, and to be honest, my goal is to get to 95%. And this has happened with really very diligent work by many of our offices here, many of our staff and faculty members. In fact, it's to the point that we have initiatives like 5-week flag, for example. Every instructor has to report by the end of 5th week of a semester the students that are vulnerable to not coming back next semester because of their grades. And then the minute we get that list, we go to work with the students and help them tutoring, counseling, advising, and everything else to help them stay. So we are at, as I said, 87.3% compared to 81.3%. 6% is about 80 students for us, and that will help us towards our graduation rates, because if we can retain more of our freshmen, obviously we get them to the finish line and then graduate at the senior level. And this chart depicts the graduation rate, and we are at 65% graduation rate, and we have many programs that are listed on the left-hand side to help our graduation rate as well. You notice that our goal there is to get to 85%. And if you notice, for the next 2-3 years, we have sort of a flat with a very shallow slope, because whatever we do today, the impact will not be felt 4 or 5 years from today. And the previous slide highlighting that what we are doing to retain more of our freshmen into sophomores and more of our sophomores into juniors is going to help our graduation rate in total. Incidentally, that is one of our really the factors that contributes to the U.S. News and World Report ranking. But remember that our students are slightly different than other campuses. Virtually every one of our engineering students do co-op and internship programs, and that has an effect in the graduation rate. They take time off to go work in companies. But the impact of that is in the recruiting that happens, and I'll show you a little bit about that. This is to highlight our financial status as far as the broader endowment balances go. And in total, between the university endowment, the Comer Foundation endowment, and our alumni foundation endowment, we are just about $600 million. Not bad for a university our size. We're hoping to, in fact, push that up. And this number doesn't include all the expenditures that we've already done on the Arrival District and funding that came from Comer Foundation. And I think I want to highlight here that we've had many, many generous donations by our alumni and members of our trustees towards the Arrival District. It's not all Comer money, just significant amounts of money that have been given to the university by our alumni and trustees. As a part of our student highlights, I want you to take a look at these numbers. This last year, the average starting salary for our graduates was $72,600. And that is up to par with the best in the country. And the highest undergraduate salary that was fetched was $129,000. Another important number on this slide is the average debt of our students, which is about $29,000. That's about a third of their first year compensation, and that's what gives rise to the rankings that we get nationally based on return on investment on education. We had 422 in-person companies on campus, and that was a record, and the previous record was a record, and the previous one to that was a record. So we've been recognized by the companies who come here and recruit our graduates. Now, we run into a problem. There's always a waiting list for the companies who want to come here and recruit. We run out of a space, frankly, and we put them on the waiting list to come in. But that's a remarkable picture, really, on the career fair day. This place is the most exciting place on earth. Everybody is all excited. Companies are excited. Our students are excited, and the interviews go on. And on the average, our students get 6.8 job offers. Now, that's a number you can write home about. This is a typical company list. These are the top 20 companies that come here and recruit from us. Of course, Boeing's and Burns and McDonald's and Honeywell, Garmin. You name the high-power technology-based companies, and they are here on campus to recruit our students. Everything that I said results into national rankings of this magnitude. Smart Asset has ranked us as #1 in the state. Money Magazine, Best Value in the state, #1. Princeton Review has ranked us #3 as far as the placement of our graduates go in the nation. Degree Choices, we are #12 in the nation. And then Degree Choices, Best Colleges in a state, we are #1. Many of you hopefully have seen now 2 weeks old New York Times article about the rankings of the universities. So if you recall, there were 3 top 10s. The first top 10 was that if you went to these universities, you were set for life based on the starting salary and mid-career salaries, but didn't talk about anything else: tuition, cost of education, what you need to have as far as your grades go to get in. So the first top 10 was you get out of these schools, you fetch great salaries. The second top 10 was exactly the same as the first top 10, but then you don't have to pay an arm and a leg for your education. And we were in this top 10, we were #8, and in fact, the article specifically mentioned Missouri University of Science and Technology, where the in-state tuition is less than $15,000. And then the third top 10 was that you fetch the high salary, the education is at a reasonable cost, and you don't have to be a 4.0 to get in either. And we were #2 on that top 10 list. So you can imagine that we were over the moon with a ranking of this nature. So, and then as President Choi highlighted, the Money Magazine ranked us as #5, best of colleges of engineering, and we are asking for a recount because we want to know why we are not above Colorado School of Mines. So stay tuned for that result. As far as our students go, you are well aware that the most impactful effect of the Comer gift is not in the physical buildings that you see. The most amount of resources are allocated for undergraduate scholarships and doctoral fellowships. So as of today, we are over 1,100 undergraduate Comer Vanguard scholarships. 1,100. Folks, that sounds like a government program almost, right? So this year alone, we had 400 new Comer Vanguard scholars, And we are, as far as the graduate scholarship goes, we are at about 45 fully paid, 4-year support doctoral fellowships. The great news in this category is that a lot of our faculty who have grants, national grants, they are leveraging this fund. So they will pay for a year or two in exchange for the Comer funds to pay for a year or two. So even though our goal for total doctoral I&E fellows is 100, we are going to get way above 100 because we are leveraging those funds. So there are some of the examples. You saw some of the doctoral fellows and undergraduate Vanguard students yesterday at the reception times, including Remy that was there in the room. Experiential learning, as you know, that is a mandatory part of our education. Design teams and experiential learning as a whole, virtually every student that comes to S&T goes through the process of experiential learning, is a part of our curricula that they have to follow. A great news here, Emma Pewitz, who during a field trip discovered a triceratops, and generously she named it Joe Minor. And I thought that was really cool. Is Emma in the room? Well, she was in the room last night, and some of you met her. She was in black dress, and you met her last night. So this is our chapter of the National Society of Black Engineers, who won the chapter of the year at the NSBE annual conference in March. And then they were also named Region 5 Chapter of the Year. And their recognition came because of all the effort that they are expanding in STEM outreach to minority high schools. Terrific work that they've done, and it was recognized by that. And it was this news that I called Mr. George Horn on his 91st birthday to tell him about this. And he was absolutely speechless to hear that. So I said to him, sir, we've come a long ways since those days. So a little bit about our faculty research. We have 3 new deans. I believe they are in the room. So if our deans stand up for a moment, please, and be recognized. Tim Bailey, Mirzad Burujerdi, David earlier here in the room. He must have gone out to put some fire. So we are grateful for our new deans. Very, very engaged with everything that I mentioned to you. They're really the champions of pushing the 5-week flag data. They had to work with the faculty to get those data so the rest of the university can work with the students that are potentially vulnerable to increase our retention data. As far as our research goes, we are very pleased with this data. The green is the award for this year, and we are up by 31%, 33%, and if you normalize it by per faculty data, we are actually up 51% this year. And I want to thank Dr. Kamal Kayat, who I know is in the room. Kamal is sitting there, for really the game-changing initiatives that he has put in place, like ignition grants, like forming a committee of grant masters, if you will, to review our key proposals that go out. This committee acts like an NSF panel review. They review the proposals, make sure that our faculty are selling a vision rather than technology know-how, technical know-how, and as a result, we have many more of our proposals being funded at the national level, and we are really proud of this data. Now, like everything else, the minimum of that 163 number should be 200, really, per faculty that we want to do research. A few of highlights, President Choi highlighted Greg Helmus for his $2.5 million on hypersonic materials. We have other faculty members who have significant grants of their own for hypersonic materials. And that has come to the notice of NASA, has come to the notice of Air Force Office of Research, and we have really a significant effort going on there. A future facility for us has to be an arc jet, where you can test ceramic-based materials at temperatures like 30,000 degrees C and so on. And that is in our thinking about stages of activities. Other faculty members, Dr. Hong Yan Ma, who just received a $2 million from the Department of Energy, $2 million grant, and he is submitting an ERC, one Engineering Research Center, to NSF. And his proposal has been selected as the top 22 so far out of 200 proposals that were submitted there. And 7 are going to be selected. We are very much hopeful and trying to help in every which way that we can for success in this category. Michael Motes, whom you saw, I don't know if Mike is in the room, and he is the chair of our materials science department, and just recently testified in front of the Natural Resources Committee of the Congress about the critical minerals. Critical minerals have finally become critical, and we are a major player in that, and we are hoping for good news in funding in those areas as well. Some of our other faculty, successful faculty members who have just been announced as fellow, Amy Bell, Vadim Maklan, and Prakash Reddy, have all been announced as new fellows in their respective societies. We have some new initiatives. You, of course, are aware of the new buildings and new physical facilities, but to map into our strategies and towards our North Star goals, you are going to see some of these new programs that are in various stages of completion for the proposals to be sent to you. In particular, I like to highlight the PhD in Artificial Intelligence Engineering, PhD in Biological Sciences, PhD in Bioengineering, and a doctoral business administration, PhD in Psychological Sciences, and PhD in Technical Communication. Remember what I said about R1, that if we stay within the domain of science and technology only, we are missing the elements that Carnegie Foundation needs to get us to R1. And what you see here, it says STEM adjacent doctoral fellows are designed for us to have the breadth as well as the depth in our research, so we get closer to our R1 goal. The other initiative, as you are aware, and Dr. Braun may have mentioned it, we are working towards our escalator program where our engineering students can pursue medical degrees. Okay, we are looking for physicianeers, and the programs that we are designing, and in fact, we had a day-long summit at Mizzou with Dr. Braun and representatives from other campuses to talk about our escalator to medical school. So what you see is on the left-hand side is what happens now. People get a bachelor's degree, apply to medical school, and go through medical school. What we want to do is the right-hand side where they apply to medical school, they're admitted, and then they do 3 years here, and then they do 2 years of the basic sciences of medical school, and then 3 years, I think this other slide highlights that, and then 2 additional years for clinical rotation. So in 7 years, they end up with an engineering degree as well as medical degree. Now, you should know that many of our engineering students pursue medical degrees anyway after they graduate from here, particularly in our chemistry and chemical engineering and biochemical engineering. They end up in various medical schools. We have many alums who are MDs, but they did their 4 year of engineering here. We are trying to expedite and facilitate for other students that can come in here who are MD-minded. So stay tuned with that. There's work ongoing. In fact, I had a conversation with Dr. Braun yesterday, and there are some activities in the making for us to do this. Similar to the School of Medicine that Dr. Braun highlighted, we have a lot of outreach activities, including a STEM mobile, where we take to high schools around the state. We have 23 summer camps this year. That's up from 13 last year. Last year, we had 700 summer camp students. This year, our capacity is at 1,340, and many of our summer camps are already at capacity. You should know that a great majority of our high school students who come here for our summer camps end up coming here as our students. So that is a great pipeline in the activities. Many other activities, as you see, about 1,000 K through 12 students were on campus this past year. That number is going to go up. Science teachers come to campus on a regular basis to get educated. And I'd like to show you, I think this is a short video. I think, can you please play that video? So this was one of our 23 summer camps, the aerospace engineering summer camp. Now, remember that STEM outreach is one of the mandates that Fred Kummer gave us. One of the 3, Elevate Missouri S&T, have economic impact, and have broad STEM outreach. So everything that we do in these domains is with Fred and June Kummer's mandate to us in mind. Now, I'm not going to talk much about the buildings. We've said enough about these, but I just want to, for your viewing pleasure, I'm going to click through some of these. This is the arrival district. Keep the block on the lower part of the slide in mind, the future BioX facility, and hopefully in one of your future visits here on campus, we are going to have a groundbreaking for that facility as well. You know where the innovation lab is located at, and then thank you for participating in groundbreaking events for the Welcome Center, and we will have one for the Bioplex. Interestingly enough, nobody had taken Protoplex name, so we were able to register it, and then nobody had taken the name Bioplex, so we have registered it as well. So we have Protoplex and Bioplex, and then if you can come up with another plex, let me know, so we can have that there. So this is the view of the Innovation Lab, a night view of the building, and interior working spaces, maker spaces for the building. The Welcome Center is going to look just like this. This is the closest to the reality. This is an interior view of it. And this is an outdoor court next to the Welcome Center. And the Protoplex, which is frankly, as far as I'm concerned, this is the most impactful facility for economic development and enhancing our contribution to the industry in the state of Missouri. So this is the view of our future bioplex. So interior view, an exterior view, and that is going to go where I said keep the location of that lower block in mind. So the arrival district will be an integrated facility for the campus in many senses. This is my last slide. I want to thank Cindy Nelson of Chief Human Resources Officers, who has taken an abstract concept of leadership and management training to a new level. We have 6 modules, as you can see here. And we realized about a year and a half ago that we need to develop our own leaders of the future. So there are 2 tracks for this program. One is individual excellence. The other one is leadership for the university. Both, of course, are leadership training. And right now, I believe 5 or 6 modules of the 5 modules are in play. And Cindy, how many of our faculty and staff are going through this already? Okay, so I think this is really, really great. We went through trying to recruit our department heads and unit heads and all of that, and as you know, the process was kind of unbelievable, the challenges of recruiting good people. So we decided that we need to have an effort to grow our own as well, and this slide highlights that. 100 of our staff and faculty members have gone through this. Now, keep in mind that this is progressive. They have to take the personal effectiveness workshop first, then move on to project management, emerging leaders, project management professional certification training, and supervisor courses. All of those are in gear right now. We haven't gotten to coaching seminars and executive coaching yet, but that's in the works as well. That's all I have. Thank you very much, and I stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Chancellor Degani? Hearing none, I want to thank you very much for having us on your campus.
Keith has a
Oh,
comment, maybe.
Keith, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, thank you for having us on your campus. This way you're, the hospitality's been great. Your people are very enthusiastic, especially the students. It's always about the students. That's who it's about.
That's right.
And they were outstanding yesterday at the reception and this morning, and thank you.
He said it also. Thank you, Chancellor.
Yep, thank you.
Is there anything for the good and the welfare of the board?
If you'll let me, on behalf of the board, it's Volunteer Appreciation Month, and that popped up yesterday on one of my emails, and it made me think about the number of volunteers that are engaged in the system at all 4 of our universities, at MU Healthcare, at Extension. It's the trustees, it's the alumni chapters. Marcia mentioned 2 groups that volunteer this morning their time. I just want to make a point to say thank you on all of our behalf, because our universities and our system are better because of the people who willingly give their time to make it better.
Great point. Anything else for the good and welfare of the board? And I think it goes without saying, we all echo what Robin said. Thank you for keeping that at the forefront, that without our volunteers, we don't get any of the things that we're doing done. I would entertain a motion and a second to move into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Cindy, can you call the roll?
Curator Burnsick,
Yes.
Curator Graves,
Yes.
Curator Holloway,
Yes.
Curator Lehman,
Yes.
Curator Winokur,
Yes.
Curator Williams.
Yes.
Okay, you have all votes in favor.
Thank you. This concludes the public portion of the Board of Curators meeting today.